Well, hello internets, here we are with a little bit of a video. In this here video we have some ideas that I've got floating around my head. Are we free to live our own lives the way we choose, staying of course within the boundaries that are put, boundaries and laws I guess, that are put in place by those that we have chose to be in control of our country and our lives? Or do we live a life that is dictated by others? A life that is shown that we have to live by others. Things that we see on the TV that we copy because others copy the same thing. You know, your neighbor buys a new truck, so you buy a new truck, or your neighbor fixes their house, so you fix your house the same, so you gotta look just like them, look like you are, well, rich or got money, doing just as good as they are. You know, are we free to go camping at a moment's notice within reason, or hop in our vehicle and go for a drive? Or is your life living you, basically? Are you working for the only reason to pay for your house so you have a place to live when you're not at work? Are you enjoying your life that you are working for, rather than basically just repeating the same cycle over and over again for the next 50 years until something breaks in your life, until you lose it all? Do we own things, or are we owned by things? I know we buy game systems, we buy TVs, we buy furniture, we buy vehicles, we buy houses. However, do they own us, or do we own them? I know we're paying for them. However, those monthly payments dictate what we can and cannot do. Because we own a home and we're still paying 25-year mortgage, never-ending 25-year mortgage, basically that house owns you until that mortgage is done. No matter what you're wanting to do in life, those possessions will always be there to anchor you down, to hold you back from fulfilling your dream, because those possessions will always be here. We always have to rent an apartment or rent a storage stall or have a place to put our possessions, especially if we're not going to be in a house or an apartment to hold them. If you look at the storage industry, it's a huge ballooning industry that seems to be growing every year. People buy stuff and put it into storage until such a time as they need it. Those possessions essentially own them. Every month those possessions are taking more and more of their money and not really given back in return much back. I know in my life I made a lot of choices, got rid of a lot of things, and I know there was a huge loss between the house, the tools, vehicles, RVs, family. However, my house, even though I so-called owned it, it basically owned me. I could not move for another job because I had the house here. I was always afraid of going away for a holiday. What if somebody broke into the garage and stole my tools? I was always chasing something that I never could get. chasing the happiness that buying something new, buying a status symbol, buying something that I could show off could only get. However, once you have realized that possessions don't bring you happiness, then that fancy house or that expensive truck or that RV, those tools, really doesn't mean as much as they once did. And it really makes you wonder how come you sacrificed and gave up, did without for so long just to hang on to something that really was not critical in your life. I do realize we all need a place to live. I do realize that if you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have a kid, a child or children, then you kind of need to take in their considerations before doing something big in your life, big altering changes. But after all that has changed and you find yourself living alone in this big house, maintaining this big yard for just yourself, you say to yourself, is all this really worth it? Me working myself to the bone to maintain something that will never ever pay back the dividends that I have spent my whole life putting in it. I will never would have been able to have paid off that mortgage the way things were going. Like when I say it was a never-ending 25-year mortgage, it was a never-ending 25-year mortgage. Realistically, I should have been down to 12, 15 years or so left paying on that mortgage. But instead, I had 23 years left to still pay on it. And like I mentioned in other videos, I owed more at time of giving back the house than I did when I bought the house in 12 years earlier. So even though I've always made my payments, never missed a payment, never had trouble, right up until the day I gave the keys back, even the bank had no idea fully what was going on. I did inquire with the bank and I did discuss with them certain aspects. However, them being not willing to work with me, not willing to try to make things better, escalated things quicker and kind of forced my hand to essentially ending things earlier than what I had planned to end him. But I have learned through all this, living a simpler life is a lot better than living a overly complicated life. I know I'm living in an apartment that is smaller than my house. However, I don't really notice the difference in space-wise. The apartment has all my needs covered, has a bathroom, has a kitchen, has a living room, has a bedroom, has storage rooms, has closets, has a beautiful deck area that I can sit on in the summer days. So other than not having a backyard and not having a garage and being way cheaper than the house was every month, living the simple life of an apartment or so for me was definitely the better choice to have made. You look at people and they've got an older vehicle, they live in a trailer, they've got an older flat screen TV, they got older furniture, they go out for coffee or they have meals out every day. They're living a semi-simple life with simple things, whether they're forced to live that way because they don't have a credit rating, or they live that way because they choose to live that way because living living with crippling debt from mortgage and vehicle payments and credit card bills and divorce lawyer bills and stuff like that is no way to survive. It is definitely no way to survive. That just adds more and more crushing debt, crushing weight on top of you until eventually there's nothing left to give, nothing left, and you collapse. Kind of brings me to the next point of living within your means. Basically, if you're single, you make $1,400 a month, then make sure you don't rent an apartment that is like $900 a month, because you're going to have a hard time living within your means by the time you pay your utility bills, buy groceries, pay your cell phone bill, pay your cost for your vehicles or vehicle, and any other unnecessary expenses. If you're a couple, living within your means is basically trying to live within one person's income. Because if you lose your job, then it's up to your spouse to help to cover that gap until such a time as you can pick up another job to get things going again. You don't have to buy a new vehicle every couple of years. You don't have to live in the biggest or the fanciest home. You don't have to go on vacations multiple times a year just to prove that you are well off. True happiness comes from within, not stuff you own or stuff you buy. Just something to think about in this here vlog, just some of my feelings, some of my thoughts. You may or may not agree, but it is what it is. And around we go. And as always, thanks for watching Maxwell's Vlogs. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.